civilians as human shields. I want to recognize Mr. Vargas for his work on House Resolution 665, condemning the murder of Israeli and Palestinian children in Israel and the ongoing escalation of violence. Chairman Ross-Leighton and I were in Israel the night the world learned the tragic fate of the 3 Israeli teens, Eyal, Gilad, and Naftali. We mourned with the families and the tens of thousands of others at their joint funeral. And we were there just days later when 16-year-old Mohammed Abu Qadir was brutally and tragically murdered. In the wake of these heartbreaking deaths, violence escalated as Hamas began indiscriminately launching rockets at southern Israel, and then central Israel, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem. Thanks to the Iron Dome missile defense system, hundreds of thousands of Israeli lives have been saved. Israel has the right to defend her people against these attacks, and she can't be criticized for making the investments in Iron Dome to save her citizens, while Hamas continues to invest in rockets aimed at killing Israeli citizens. In the weeks since the start of Operation Protective Edge, Israel has uncovered numerous plots by Hamas to infiltrate Israel via terror tunnels and to launch attacks on Israeli civilians. I ask you to imagine what you would want your country to do if rockets were raining down on your hometown. If tunnels were built under your house, your children's nursery, your grandfather's senior center, for the sole purpose of making it possible to pop up in those places and slaughter the people who live there. As President Obama said, no nation should accept rockets being fired into its borders or terrorists tunneling into its territory. Look, we all mourn the loss of innocent life on both sides of this conflict. It's tragic. But it's Hamas, a U.S. and European Union designated terrorist organization, terrorist army, that is embedding its terrorist infrastructure in densely populated civilian areas. As Israel makes every attempt to warn of incoming strikes via phone calls, text messages, and leaflet drops, Hamas spokesmen go on TV and encourage civilians to stay in their homes to act as human shields. Hamas hides rockets in schools. In the past week, rockets were found in 2 UN schools. It hides them in mosques. As the Washington Post reported on July 17th, when it witnessed a group of men at a mosque in northern Gaza seen moving small rockets into the mosque. Madam Chairman, I know that emotions run high on both sides of this conflict, but there is no path that leads to peace and a Palestinian state living side by side with the Jewish state of Israel that includes Hamas. The greatest impediment to peace for everyone who wants peace in the region, the greatest impediment to peace between Israel and the Palestinians is Hamas, whose charter is founded on the destruction of the state of Israel. President Bill Clinton said in an interview this week, Hamas was perfectly well aware of what would happen if they started raining rockets in Israel. They fired 1,000 of them, and they have a strategy designed to force Israel to kill their own civilians so that the rest of the world will condemn them. It's Hamas that chose to invest money in underground bunkers for its leaders and terror tunnels and rocket launchers instead of investing in jobs and schools and health care for the people of Gaza. The siege that people like to talk about in Gaza has been brought about on the people of Gaza by Hamas. And it's Hamas that uses its own people as human shields to protect these rocket launchers. The use of civilians to protect military objectives is a direct violation of the Geneva Conventions. Well, look, this week, just this week, we heard from a Hamas spokesman. If there's any question about what's really happening here, we heard this statement. He said, "We'll keep tormenting the Zionists until the last Zionist leaves the soil of Palestine, all of Palestine. Any calm is temporary, periodic calm. We don't talk about a long-term peace agreement. Calm in the resistance dictionary means preparation for the next war. The resistance will keep developing, manufacturing, and stocking its arsenals with new, surprising components for the next wars until the Zionist enemy leaves our country and all our land." That's the Hamas spokesman. It's really simple, Madam Chairman. Any responsible nation that values human rights must condemn the deplorable actions of Hamas and other terrorist groups. And the UN vote this week, take a look at the 29 countries who voted to focus on Israel instead of the country that's launching rockets and launching terror attacks. Tell me about the great concern that human rights, that Cuba and Venezuela have as they voted for that resolution. Madam Chairman, I want to thank you for your commitment to bringing these bills forward in a bipartisan manner. And I hope that we have the opportunity, as this bill goes further, to further delve into what is a very simple and straightforward proposition, that if you believe in human rights, if you believe in democracy, then you must support Israel's right to defend itself, and you must condemn Hamas. And I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deutch. Now I'm pleased